our 7 days development program titled Mindsets, Knowledge Sets, and Skill Sets for 21st Century Youth Innovations and Adaptations. We have amongst us CA Rajender Arora for his session, namely GST, Recent Developments and Impact of COVID-19. CA Rajender Arora is managing partner of Spark and Associates and heads GST division in the firm. He is a prolific speaker and vivid reader, an acclaimed YouTuber, and successfully runs a YouTube channel named GST Ki Raah Mein Aapka Dost CA Rajender Arora. He is knowledge partner with Clear Tax and Tax for Wealth. Owing to his vast knowledge about the subject, he has written numerous articles on GST. He has delivered 1,000+ lectures on GST across India. He has contributed for 8 years as a faculty to General Management and Communication Skills course of ICAI and delivered almost 200 lectures. Also, he has delivered 125 lectures at orientation programs of NIRC of ICAI. He has served as Deputy Convener of Inner Circle of CPE, Study Circle of NIRC of ICAI for 2 years. During this tenure, he conducted many seminars on various topics of professional interest. He has served as the core group member of Rohini CPE Study Circle of NIRC of ICAI and has delivered many lectures on various topics. Presently, he is serving his third term as elected member with NIRC of the ICAI and is chairman of NICASA. Also, he is chairman of GST committee of NIRC of ICAI and been secretary of NIRC in 2017-18. He provides GST consultancy and representational service in the field of indirect taxes to many leading business houses. We welcome you, sir. Before beginning the session, I would like to mention that questions by the participants will be taken up and after sir's session post 5:30 p.m. Participants can also post the question on the chat box. Now, I would like to request CA Rajender Arora to kindly proceed with the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Suman ma'am. At the beginning, I would like to thank the SRCC, the entire management, the management of this program, the coordinators, Shikha ma'am, Suman ma'am, Piyush, everyone, the principal ma'am of the college also, and other management committee members who have given me this opportunity to share my little understanding about the subject, which is ever growing, ever changing, ever adjusting, ever developing. So far as this subject is concerned, when we always say the development in GST, usually when we say development always is referred to the situation wherein there is a upward movement, forward movement into a particular field, into a particular area or a function. But because of the novelty factor, because of the, I would say, it is in the early stages of its inception, the subject goods and services tax. Here, development sometimes also includes going backward. So when we say developing with the subject, it means sometimes there are few issues which were already settled in the previous law, erstwhile law of service tax and excise and VAT, which is now being getting complicated in the over enthusiasm of both the lawmakers and the executory part of the government. So, but so far as at present situation is concerned, the topic which has been assigned to me is about in two segments. One is impact of COVID-19 and another is the recent developments in GST. My dear friends, the viewers, as we know that for past now more than 60 days, more than 2 months, the entire country is under lockdown. So there were certain changes, there were certain I would say the developments which have taken place at the beginning of the lockdown only, say when around 22nd, 23rd March, when this was being envisaged that the entire country is going to be shut down. The system is going to be shut down for initially for 21 days. At that time, at that point of time only, the government came out with some relaxations in terms of making compliances of the subject. So to begin with, if my PPT is visible to you, my dear friends, the first compliance which I'm sorry, is anybody speaking?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Thank you. So when we say filing, I would be taking you to various aspects of the subject today. Majority of them which has taken place in past 2 months only. Some of are related to the COVID-19 reactions, proactivity. Both the things have been shown by the government. Government has been proactive also. At the beginning of the lockdown, they announced the reliefs, announced the certain measures which would actually result into not actually worrying about making compliances by the businesses, but rather to worry about being existent into this world. So when we say filing GST returns, if you are not able to file as a business, if you are not able to file your GST return, then there are consequences provided in the law. And there are principally two consequences, two ramifications which come out after when there is a non-compliance with respect to filing GST returns to begin with. First is that under section 47 of the Act, there is a prescription of paying late fee, and that is 200 rupees per day. Practically, it is 100 rupees per act per day. So when CGST and SGST both acts are combined, so I'm not going into much detail of the nitty-gritty of the law, but to actually touch base the issues which has taken place in past 2-3 months, or which has arose, which has surfaced on the face of the economy and the industry in last 2-3-4 months. So when you don't file your GST return, first problem is that the late fee is levied, imposed, and the second problem, when you have to pay the interest on the net tax output minus input, this was also a problem. Interest was also a problem. Those who are actually keeping a tap on GST developments, they must be knowing that since beginning the interest used to be charged on the gross amount instead of net of input tax credit. Gross amount means if I have supplied for 100 rupees and the tax is 10 rupees, and I have taken the inward supply of making that 100 rupees supply, say 90 rupees supply I have taken as inward. मतलब मैंने purchase 90 में किया और sale 100 में किया, तो the input tax credit paid on that 90 rupees was not allowed to me to be deducted to determine the interest to be paid. Earlier, the law used to say that if you don't file your return, that the interest should be paid on entire 100 rupees which you have collected. But law was not giving me the deduction of that 90 rupees which I have paid to my buyer on account of purchases received from him. Then finally, in 39th GST Council meeting on 14th March 2020, finally GST Council actually announced this fact, recommended this fact that the interest shall only be charged on the net portion. Means 100 रुपए का टैक्स था, 100 रुपए का सप्लाई था, 10 रुपए उस पर टैक्स कलेक्ट किया, 90 रुपए का परचेज किया, उस पर 9 रुपया टैक्स दिया. So finally I have to pay 1 rupee difference tax. 1 rupee what I would pay in cash, interest shall be paid on that 1 rupee only, not on 10 rupees completely. So these were the issues. So when you don't file GST return, two consequences: late fee and the interest. Both these problems were being mitigated by the GST Council, by the government, and they have said that if you do not file your return for Feb, March, April, May till May. Feb, March, April, May. If you don't file your return till 30th May, if you file your return for Feb, March, April, May till 30th May, then no late fees shall be charged from you. Now, the entire gamut of taxpayers have been divided into 3 segments. One segment, those who are having the turnover below 1.5 crores. Second segment, 1.5 crore till 5 crore. Third segment, more than 5 crore. So let me tell you, so far as late fee is concerned, whatever I am speaking, that is there in on my presentation also. I would request that please concentrate what I am actually speaking instead of reading the PPT only. I'll be sharing this PPT with the organizers. You can get it from them also, and all the material is available on the internet as well, on the government sites also. So if you are into any of 3 categories, late fee for Feb, March, April, May, 4 months late fee. If you file till maximum 30th June, no late fee for filing 3B shall be charged. For filing GSTR 1 also shall be charged. So this one point is clear, late fee is clear. वो तीनों कैटेगरीज में है, चाहे आप 1.5 करोड़ वाले हैं, 1.5 से 5 वाले हैं, या you are more than 5. Now the question arises, what is about the interest part, my dear friends? As per section 50 of the CGST Act 2017, the interest is charged at the rate of 18% per annum calculated on daily basis. Now, what the relief is being provided because of the COVID-19, because of this pandemic which is there across the globe, is that if, let me tell you, again the 3 categories. First 2 categories, no interest if you file your 3B till 30th June, my dear friends. If you file your 3B till 30th June, no interest for first 2 categories. मतलब आप 1.5 करोड़ तक का टर्नओवर है, आपका टैक्स पेयर है, आप फरवरी, मार्च, अप्रैल, मई अपनी रिटर्न 30 जून तक फाइल कर दें, देयर इज नो लेट फी. आप 1.5 से 2.5 हैं, सेम, नो लेट फी. आप 5, 1.5 से 2.5 नहीं, 1.5 से 5 हैं, सॉरी, आप 5 से ऊपर हैं, स्टिल आप 24 जून तक, 5 से ऊपर के लिए फेब, मार्च, अप्रैल, मई, द लास्ट डेट शैल बी 24 जून, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स. So till 24th June, if you file your 3B, my dear friends, no late fee. But if you file your 3B after 24th June 2020, the late fee from the due date till the date actually you file shall be charged. So this is a late fee completed. So far as interest for first category, second category, there is no interest, my dear friends. If you file your GSTR 3B till 30th June. But for the third category कौन सी है? Above 5 crore, more than 5 crore aggregate turnover इस साल में till 2020 या last year में आपका अगर 5 करोड़ रुपया से ऊपर टर्नओवर था, then ब्याज जो है, जो इंटरेस्ट जो है, that is divided into 2 segments, my dear friends. Please listen to me very carefully. If your turnover is above 5 crore, either in this financial year 1920 or in the preceding financial year of 1890, then the interest shall be divided into 2 further segments. First segment, if you file your GST 3B, listen to me very carefully, if you file your GSTR 3B for Feb, March, April, May till 15 days from the due date of filing of your respective month's return, till 15 days from the due date of filing of your respective month's return, no interest, 18% hai normally, no interest shall be charged, my dear friends. Say for example, in case of May return, May 2020 3B return, if you file your return, the due date of filing May 2020 return is 20th June. 15 days from 20th June shall be 5th July. But for my return, the last date shall be 24th June. If you file your my return till 24th June, no interest, my dear friends, shall be charged. If you file your my return till 24th June, no interest shall be charged. But if you file your return, say for example, April return last date is 20th May, and April return last date is 20th May. But if you file till 5th June also, no interest. But if you file after 5th June, then half of 18%, that is 19%, 9%. Half of 18%, that is 9% interest shall be charged, my dear friends. So that way, there is a great relief that 15 दिन का तो आपके पास टाइम मिल गया फ्रॉम द ड्यू डेट फॉर फाइलिंग योर रिटर्न, और 15 दिन बाद भी अगर आप फाइल करते हैं तो आपको लेट फी तो जमा करानी ही नहीं है. Interest also is reduced to half, my dear friends. So this was about the GSTR 3B. 1 till 30th June you can always file. This is the same thing which is being told to you, is being produced here in the PPT. This is just an example which is being taken, whatever I have. But if you, one last thing, if you file your April return till 24th June, if you file your April return till 24th June, then 9% interest. But if you file after 24th June, due date of which was 20th April, third point, if you file after 24th June, maybe say 30th June, then my dear friends, 20th अप्रैल की जो रिटर्न आपने 30 जून को फाइल की है, ड्यू डेट 20th अप्रैल था, टोटल 71 डेज का डिले है, आपका पूरा का पूरा 18% ब्याज जो है ऑन 71 डेज लगेगा, और लेट फी भी लगेगी, जैसा मैंने पहले आपको बताया, माय डियर फ्रेंड्स. सो द रिलीफ इज till 24th June in case of more than 5 crores. If you file after 24th June, interest, complete total interest 18%, and then late fee also shall be charged. Similar benefit for composition suppliers are also being provided by the government. There is a return of 31st March, quarter ending 31st March 2020, which was further extended till 15th July 2020. Then if you want to opt for 2020-21, 2020-21 के लिए अगर आप कंपोजिशन स्कीम अप्लाई करना चाहते थे, then the last date is further extended. The last date earlier was 31st March for CMP 02, is extended to 30th June 2020. Correspondingly, if you have to file your GST ITC 03, now what is this GST ITC 03 is, if you listen to me carefully, if you were earlier into composition, now into regular scheme with effect from now, want to come into regular scheme from 1st April 2020, then whatever the stock in finished goods you had at the time of 31st March, whatever credit which is represented by your stock shall be available to you when you shift from composition to regular supplier. So credit which was earlier not available to you as a composition supplier, now if you become a regular supplier, the credit shall be available to you, and you have to file GST ITC 03 to transfer the credit, to actually bring that credit suo moto in your credit ledger. The last date is extended to 31st July 2020. This we have already discussed. Now there is one more bone of contention which is there for quite a few months now in the law. when we say input tax credit, listen to me first, then I'll talk about this rule 36 sub rule 4. My dear friends, so far as input tax credit is concerned, input tax credit is allowed according to the powers given under section 16 subsection 2. If you comply with the conditions mentioned under section 16 subsection 2, you as a recipient shall be allowed with the input tax credit. Now, there are corresponding rules which provide for the conditions or documentary evidences to be met in order to avail the input tax credit available on inward supplies purchases as a recipient of purchases. Now there is one rule 36 which is again talking about the documentary evidences to be complied for claiming input tax credit. This rule 36 is to be read with section 16 subsection 2 subsection 16 subsection 1 rather, which says that the credit shall be available subject to the conditions prescribed under rule 36, and rule 36 prescribes for certain documents. Now there is one rule 36 sub rule 4 which is being added into the law with effect from 9th October 2019. Now what does this law say? Listen to me carefully. It is prescribing a restriction on the availability of the input tax credit available to the recipient in spite of the fact that section 16(2) conditions all are complied with. Now, what is this section, rule 36 of rule 4? It says that the credit available, it says the credit with respect to, listen to me carefully, I am going a little slower here just to make you aware about this thing. Those who are aware, please bear with me at the cost of repetition. The credit in respect of those invoices, which are not uploaded by the supplier under section 39. The credit in respect of those invoices which are not uploaded by the supplier under section 39 shall be restricted to 20% of the credit of invoices which are uploaded. The credit of not uploaded invoices shall be restricted to 20% of the credit which are uploaded by the supplier. I am telling you the entire phrase of law in a different manner now. एक आपने पोर्टल GSTN सुना होगा, गुड्स एंड सर्विस टैक्स नेटवर्क, जिसे हम पोर्टल कहते हैं, GST पोर्टल. मैं सप्लायर हूं, मिस्टर एक्स मेरा रेसिपिएंट है. मैंने मिस्टर एक्स को 1 लाख रुपए के गुड्स बेचे, उसके ऊपर 18% GST लगाया, 1,18,000 रुपए का इनवॉइस कर दिया. Now I am under obligation to actually upload that invoice on the portal so that the credit belonging to Mr. X, which is being transferred by with goods along with the invoice, is actually received and demonstrated on the common portal of all maintained by GSTN. But I did not upload that 1 lakh invoice, and Mr. X, in spite of the fact he has received the goods, he has got the invoice, he has made the payment to me for the entire 1,18,000. But if I have not uploaded the invoice on the common portal, the credit shall not be available, or the credit shall be available only to the extent of 20% of those invoices which are available. मान लीजिए मैं एग्जांपल के साथ समझता हूं, इसको जरा यहां पर लेते हैं, इस एग्जांपल के साथ लेते हैं. नाउ 2A में फरवरी में क्रेडिट आ रहा है 80 रुपए का और बुक्स में आ रहा है 100 रुपए. नाउ लिसन टू मी केयरफुली माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, सिर्फ फरवरी देखिएगा. नाउ 2A में 80 रुपए आ रहा है लेकिन बुक्स में 100 रुपए आ रहा है. बुक्स में अगर क्रेडिट आ रहा है देन आई विल बी हैविंग द इनवॉइसेस आल्सो. बट डिपार्ट लॉ सेज ये 10% अभी भूल जाइए, अभी 20% रखिए. लॉ सेज कि आप का जो 80 रुपए क्रेडिट 2A में आ रहा है और बुक्स में आपका 100 रुपए आ रहा है, जो 20 रुपए क्रेडिट के इनवॉइसेस जो आपके सप्लायर ने अपलोड नहीं किए हैं, मैं वो क्रेडिट आपको सिर्फ और सिर्फ 20% जो कि क्रेडिट अवेलेबल है उतना ही दूंगा. 80 रुपए का 20% कितना होता है? 16 रुपए. 80 प्लस 16 रुपीज एड हॉक क्रेडिट. ये वो क्रेडिट है जो कि 20 रुपए का जो इनवॉइस है वो मेरा अपलोड नहीं हुआ. मुझे 20 रुपए के क्रेडिट की बजाय अब एड हॉक क्रेडिट मिलेगा 20% ऑफ द इनवॉइसेस अपलोडेड ऑन पोर्टल. और वो जो अपलोड हो जाते हैं वो 2A में नजर आते हैं. 80 का 20% 16 rupees, that comes to 96. In spite of the fact that I have a credit availability eligibility of 100 rupees, but I would be allowed only 96 rupees. This provision was challenged in the court of law, Delhi High Court, Honorable Punjab and Haryana, and Gujarat High Court. In spite of the fact that this provision is being challenged in the court of law, government came in with a new change with effect from 1st January and reduced the 20% restriction to 10%, my dear friends. Now, at present, with effect from 1st January 2020, 80 रुपी 80 इसका 10% 8, बुक्स में 100 लेकिन क्रेडिट मिलेगा 88. I would say this is the impossible eventuality which is very difficult to meet out, but department is actually after life and sent notices also to the industry, trader industry, wherein they have said that your 2A credit is less than the 3B credit and you should pay the difference along with the interest and penalty. Now this was the provision, but on 24th March, department came out with the notification and said for February, March, April, May, June, July, August. These are the 7 months credit. This rule of 36 sub rule 4 shall not be applied, and for all the 7 months, the rule 36(4) shall be cumulatively applied. Now, this example actually exhibits, demonstrates the application of that cumulative provision of rule 36 sub rule 4. For example, Feb, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. The credit as per input, as per 2A is like this. Total credit is 710, which is there on 2A. But in your books, the total credit is 800 rupees. Now, the credit of those invoices which are not uploaded shall be restricted to the 10% of those invoices which are uploaded. And uploaded कितने हैं? 710 रुपए के uploaded है. 710 का अगर आप 110% करते हैं तो 781 बनता है. उन्होंने आपको एक रिलीफ दिया. उन्होंने कहा फॉर फेब से अगस्त तक आप अपनी बुक्स का क्रेडिट ही क्रेडिट ले लो. You don't bother what is coming in your 2A, whatever is available in the books, क्रेडिट ले लो. 100 रुपीज आपका क्रेडिट बुक्स में अवेलेबल है, फॉर एग्जांपल आप ले लो. और क्यूमुलेटिव एप्लीकेशन करना इन द मंथ ऑफ सितंबर. जब आप क्यूमुलेटिव एप्लीकेशन देखते हैं तो फरवरी से अगस्त तक 100 रुपीज बुक्स में क्रेडिट था, मैं क्रेडिट वो 3B में भी लेता चला गया. फरवरी से अगस्त तक 700 रुपए का क्रेडिट मैंने ले लिया. टोटल क्यूमुलेटिव क्रेडिट 781 का अवेलेबल था. इन स्पाइट ऑफ द फैक्ट कि मेरे पास 100 रुपीज का बुक्स में क्रेडिट है, but because the cumulative credit restricted to 781, 700 is already taken. Further 81 only shall be allowed to me. I hope I am clear with this. This is a good relief, but in the first place, I would say this is a completely weird, impractical, improbable provision and unconstitutional also. time does not permit me, but I can prove that it is unconstitutional also. So next change which they have come out with, on 24th March only, they said the due date for filing the annual return along with the GST audit return is extended till 30th June. They further extended this to 30th September. They further extended this to 30th September. Now at present, the last date for filing GSTR 9 and 9C, annual return and audit statement, reconciliation statement for financial year 18-19 is 30th September. Now, during COVID only, they came out with one provision with respect to, though, halaki, in spite the fact that the finance ministry has announced that no new insolvency proceedings shall be initiated against any company for 1 year. But for those it is already been initiated, went to the tribunal, intermediary resolution professional or resolution professional, IRP or RP is already appointed, or corporate insolvency resolution process has already been initiated, commonly called as CIRP, corporate insolvency resolution process. If already initiated, then what would be the GST impact? This is the latest situation which is there in GST. So now let me give you the brief about this entire situation. Now what is the present situation herein is, listen to me carefully, don't try to read it, everything is there, just listen to me, you will get everything very clear. And we have 30 minutes, good 30 minutes for question answer session also, and you can ask me any question with respect to the subject, with respect to goods and services tax from anywhere till now, whatever has happened in the country. So what was this circular and notification issued by the CBIC? When a company goes into liquidation, I would say insolvency. When a company goes into insolvency, that company is called corporate debtor. All the terms which are from insolvency and bankruptcy code is being used in this circular and notification also. Whatever organization which has gone into resolution process is called corporate debtor, and the time period when it has gone into corporate insolvency resolution process, that is commonly called as CIR. When the entire process of resolving the bottleneck, resolving the operation, resolving the financial hardships available with the organizations, the process of resolution is called corporate insolvency resolution process. If in a corporate debtor CIRP is initiated and interim resolution professional is appointed or resolution professional is appointed, though the entire thing is initiated, but the corporate debtor continues to carry on with their operations. Operations are never shut, because the insolvency professional, the resolution professional, which is appointed for the purpose of resolving the bottleneck into the organization. Now, amidst this situation, during this situation, considering the present situation, there are few questions which are being answered by the department, by CBIC, Customs and Indirect Tax Board of Central Indirect Tax Board of Government of India, CBIC. So, first question is being asked by, in the circular itself, in the notification itself, First notification came and then circular came. Notification 11/20 came and then circular 134 came. I have combined both the things. Just listen to me carefully. First question they have asked is that what about the GST dues of pre-CIRP period, corporate insolvency resolution process, when the corporate debtor, when the entity has not gone into the liquidation or the resolution process. Now, if when dues are there with respect to outward supplies made by that corporate debtor, what would happen to those, that GST which is being collected by the corporate debtor on the supplies made pre-CIR? So the government clarified that the government shall not take any coercive action, कोई जबरदस्ती नहीं करेगी कॉर्पोरेट डेटर के साथ फॉर द कलेक्शन ऑफ दैट टैक्स, बल्कि द प्रॉपर ऑफिसर ऑफ द कॉर्पोरेट डेटर shall be going to the NCLT seeking the details of the supplies made pre-CIRP and would submit its claim as operational debt before the NCLT, and the taxes which are collected and payable by the corporate debtor pertaining to the pre-CIRP period shall be claimed as an operational debt by the proper officer, jurisdictional officer of the corporate debt. This is one clarified by the department. Next question arises, which has been further elaborated by the department 2-3 days back. Now next question arises, which is a little weird, but I am not going into details of it, which says the corporate debtor, whether it should get its GST registration cancelled. So the department has clarified that it should not be cancelled, it should be suspended. If it is already cancelled, then the revocation of cancellation steps should be taken. So the department is saying the corporate debtor should keep its old registration which was there with him pre-CIR, before the corporate insolvency resolution process was initiated. Now next question they have asked whether the IRP, interim resolution professional or resolution professional, would be liable to file returns of PI's pre-CIRP period. They have said no. IRP or RP shall only be liable for those actions done after their appointment. So they are not under obligation for filing any pre-CIRP period return. Next question they have asked is whether the corporate debtor should obtain the fresh registration after the appointment of IRP or RP. So they have clarified this. Listen to me carefully, that yes, after the initiation of the CIRP, corporate insolvency resolution process, the corporate debtor becomes the distinct person. There is one person pre-CIRP, there is another person post-CIRP. So post-CIRP is a distinct person of the corporate debtor. So the distinct person, wherever they have in the country their establishments or fixed places of business, they should obtain the fresh registration. और पहली रिटर्न कैसे फाइल करनी है, उस डिस्टिंक्ट पर्सन को फर्स्ट रिटर्न after obtaining the fresh registration in all over the country wherever they have fixed establishments or place of business, additional place of business, तो उनको फर्स्ट रिटर्न सेक्शन 40 के अनुसार फाइल करनी है. और ध्यान से सुनिएगा, दिस इज वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग, पोस्ट CIRP जो भी इनवॉइसेस प्री CIRP के GST IN पर आए हैं इनवर्ड सप्लाईज के, पोस्ट CIRP जो भी इनवर्ड सप्लाईज के इनवॉइसेस प्री CIRP के रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर पर GST IN पर आए हैं, उन सब का क्लेम भी आपने पहली रिटर्न में नए रजिस्ट्रेशन में ले लेना है दोस्तों। दिस इज ऑल अबाउट, ये मैं बता चुका हूं आपको, ये भी दिस इज ऑल्सो वी हैव डन नाउ। एक और अब यहां पर जो इम्पैक्ट की बात है, दिस वाज अबाउट basically IBC related, what is the development in GST. Now I am going to touch base some burning issues because of COVID-19. Now rule 36 सब रूल आप जानते हैं, इसकी क्यूमुलेटिव एप्लीकेशन भी जानते हैं। My humble submission, because of COVID-19 you would be taking all the credit available in the books till August. September में क्यूमुलेटिव करोगे। Now for all those 7 months the reconciliation would be almost impossible if there are large number of invoices received. So I would suggest that you should continue doing the exercise of reconciling 2A with your books, so that you can also tell your supplier for the timely action of ensuring that they file their GSTR1, so that their this invoice comes to your 2A, start reflecting in your 2A. So this was one burning issue. Another burning issue, which is with respect to health insurance service. Section 17, subsection 5. My dear friends, this is something which is going to hit us all the more, because I have learned, because I work in Delhi, but I have people who are connected to me from across the country, and I get more than 50 questions every day, either on mail or WhatsApp or through phones, of all my colleagues, all my fellow professionals, chartered accountants, trade industry from throughout the country. Now we have already started getting the problems with respect to when Kerala flood was there. During the flood, majority, I'm just giving you the backdrop of this discussion, my dear friends, listen to me carefully. During the flood, the material which was being stashed or stored by the traders or manufacturers was being destroyed because of the flood water. But on the one hand, they had to suffer the losses of the material cost. On the other hand, the department sent them the notices of reversing the input tax credit of the input material, raw material, finished goods, which were lost, destroyed because of the flood, due to section 17, subsection 5, clause H. This has already happened, my dear friends, because of Kerala flood. In Kerala, in other parts of the country, wherever the similar kind of a situation. Now, recently in West Bengal and Odisha, that problem, that typhoon has come. Because of that problem, that typhoon, वो जो तूफान आया, उसकी वजह से there is a huge loss of property there in West Bengal and Odisha. On the one hand, there is a loss of property. On the other hand, department is going to come after you to ensure that the credit with respect to the material loss because of the typhoon is being reversed by you. Similar is going to happen here in case of medical insurance also. Now, there was an order passed by the Ministry of Home Affairs on April 15, 2020. They prescribed the standard operating procedure to be followed by all the factories, offices, workplace, and other establishments. All other establishments include our offices also, educational institutions also, every other place, all the workmen, all the employees, everybody comes under this. they have said in their order, which was operational from April 15 till May 17, that SOP. May 17, they withdrew that SOP, MHA, that order number 40/3/2020. They withdrew that order. On April 15, they said that for every factory, office, workplace, other establishment, health insurance for employees is compulsory. And law section 17 subsection 5 says, subclause B says that health insurance or life insurance, matter if today is health insurance, we'll not talk about life insurance. There are two words used in the law, section 17 subsection 5 clause B, health insurance or life insurance. But the matter of discussion today here is health insurance. MHA says health insurance compulsory. Law says health insurance credit is not available. Law says health insurance credit is not available unless it is obligatory on the part of the employer to provide that facility to the employee. Now, if an employer had to open the office or had to run the workplace or the factory, he had to provide that health insurance to the employees. So it is obligatory on the part of the employer for the law for the time being in force. That is that order was under Disaster Management Act 2005, section 10 subsection 1. So that becomes the law of the land. And if that becomes the law of the land, so section 17(5) clause B is met in the sense that if it is obligatory on the part of the employer for the law for the time being in force, according to the law for the time being in force, then the credit shall be available. Now, to my humble opinion, if an organization takes health insurance facilities for its employees, the credit on that health insurance services shall be available. Even the insurance services are taken before April 15 or taken after 17th May, because this is something which is, and one more, there are few case laws also, my dear friends, for this. There are two supporting judgments: Kerala High Court, Microlab, and Stenson Terzo India Private Limited. These were the two judgments wherein it was said that if it is compulsory in compliance of the law to provide a particular facility to employee, the credit for taking that facility or service to be provided to employee shall be available to the organization, company, office, factory, establishment. I am clear with it, and this is going to be a burning issue, my dear friends. And similar is with this. During lockdown, your product kept stored in your godowns, which was perishable good and lost, which was to be taken care, but no human can reach to your godowns during those 60 days. Then what would happen? Your material is lost. The moment material is lost, 17(5)(h) triggers, and the credit is required to be reversed. I humbly request the government, if anybody from the government, from the machinery is listening, please do not put the industry on the double-edged sword. On the one hand, the material loss, complete loss of the or to the organization. On the other hand, ITC also required to be reversed by the department. Don't do that. Yes, please. Now, another latest development. I am mixing all these things so that it should not be a monotonous feature of listening to only speaker. Now I am again coming back to one recent amendment in section 140 of the Act. That is the latest development. This is also, my dear friends, a burning issue which has been troubling the taxpayers in the country in GST since the day of the inception of the law, 1st July 2017. Now, the background of this section is, the background of this issue is, I'm devoting 5 minutes to the background just to make you aware that what is it all about. Now, situation is, in the erstwhile law, in excise and service tax, Sandwich credit rules were used to govern the availability of input tax credit. And in VAT, value added tax laws, various state VAT laws were there to actually guide for taking the input tax credit of inward supplies or purchases we used to call during those days. Now, when we enter into the new regime of GST, with effect from 1st July 2017, there was a section 140 in the CGST Act 2017, which was giving a benefit to the taxpayers who are migrating from the previous erstwhile regime to the GST era. Now, what was that benefit? The benefit was that you are not stopping business, you are not shutting business. Only the law of taxing the same transaction which you were been entering pre-GST, post-GST. The only change in taxing the same transaction which was there in pre-GST era and which is going to be there in post-GST. Only the difference of taxing the transaction. Now the law envisaged that the businesses are not going to be stopped, and when the businesses are going to be transcend or transit from the pre-GST to post-GST era, they are going to carry along the inputs, capital goods, and some of the capitalized services also in terms of their goods, raw material, semi-finished goods or finished goods. So what this provided was that if you are left with any credit, input tax credit, which are there with respect to your inputs, with raw material or finished goods, which you are carrying in your stock, you can carry along that input tax credit. You have got two options. Either you take refund of that input tax credit in the previous law, or you carry that credit along in GST law. And one form was required to be filed by all the taxpayers who were having their credits in the previous law and wishes to carry that credit to the next law, the present law, GST law. So Tran 1, that was the form which was required to be filled. 27th December was given of 2017, last date to fill the form. We all know nothing is hidden from anybody in the country that what was the state of affairs of the GSTN during those days, and still I won't say that much has changed except a few aspects of the portal. Much is not changed. One interesting aspect of the portal is I always used to make a sarcasm on the portal is that what is there in the law is not on the portal, and what is on the portal has never been in the law. So law says something else, portal implements the same in a different manner. Law doesn't say anything about it, but portal actually does that. So there is a inconsistency, non-consonance consistently in law and the implementing agency of law, that is GSTN, through IT, information technology. Now the question, is there any problem? Is there any problem?
No, sir, you can continue. No problem, sir.
Thank you. So, what was being provided was that if you had any credit, you please carry on. You take that credit, either वहां पर आप refund ले लें और आप यहाँ पर इसको carry forward करके आपकी future supplies के साथ जो भी tax बने इसको adjust. 27 December 2017 was the last date. Portal was not working as usual. There were plenty of technical glitches. Around 80,000 crores of input tax credit was not being able to be transcend from pre-GST era to post-GST era. Many of them, those who could afford, went to the various high courts, filing writ under Article 226 of the Constitution. The various honorable high courts gave relief on the basis of, this is a very important thing, that is why I'm taking a little long on this. So, those who could afford went to the various honorable high courts. Various high courts analyzed the issues and gave, by and large, a relief in the line of where there was a technical glitch. You were trying to file the TRAN 1 on the portal, but as a taxpayer you could not file it. So when there was a digital footprint available in the form of log maintained by the portal, then the High Court was allowing you or directing the department to accept your TRAN 1 of admitting fresh credit manually also. But general blanket benefit was not given. The first judgment came of Honorable Gujarat High Court in the case of Siddharth Enterprises. Now, that judgment was a beautifully drafted and pronounced by the Honorable High Court, Gujarat High Court, wherein they said that the input tax credit, if it is legitimate, then it is a constitutional right. If it is not a fundamental right, but it is a constitutional right under Article 300 and capital A. In case of Siddharth Enterprises, Honorable Gujarat High Court said this. They said it that if the conditions attached to the availability of the credit, according to Section 16(2), which we discussed while discussing Rule 36(4), if the conditions attached to 16(2) are satisfied, are being complied with, then the input tax credit and the conditions attached to previous tax laws also with respect to the input tax, then the credit becomes my vested right and in coexistent with my existence as a human on this earth, and it can never be taken away. This was being said by the Honorable Gujarat High Court in Siddharth. Same thing was being followed by the Delhi High Court and then the Punjab and Haryana High Court, wherein they said all three judgments on the same line, my dear friends. 80,000 crore of input tax credit is still stuck because of non-availability of procedural form, which is a procedural lapse. Substantive law does not provide. Substantive law never used to provide. Listen to me carefully. Substantive law never used to provide any facility wherein the lawmakers could restrict the availability of the credit by prescribing in the rules the last date for filing a form for availing the credit. There was no provision under Section 140 wherein the lawmakers could provide the last date of filing the form by prescribing the last date in the rules by way of filing of a procedural form TRAN 1 for availing the credit of transitional credit, we commonly call it transitional credit. Siddharth Enterprises, then the Punjab and Haryana, then the Delhi High Court all said the same thing, and they said that irrespective of the fact, listen to me carefully, irrespective of the fact whether you have tried on the portal to claim the credit or not, the credit is available to you. Department is directed to accept the credit by way of a manual application of the taxpayer. And this was being happened in many judgments after Siddharth Enterprises across the country. But Article 226, writ of mandamus had to be filed for specific case. Aggrieved party had to go to the court. There was not a general benefit available in the law. Aggrieved party had to go to the court and seek relief. And this being this covered matter, if already by the same High Court, then on the first hearing they used to get the relief of admitting their transition. Now government awaken up. They said the law. Now one very interesting judgment of Brand Equity Treaties Limited of Delhi High Court came in very recently. Now they said earlier 3 high courts were saying that it is a constitutional right, Article 300 capital A would be applied irrespective of time period. Whenever you want to claim it, go to the court, get your writ petition admitted, take benefit and claim it, no problem. But by way of this Brand Equity Treaties and others, there were 4 more I would say plaintiffs into this case versus Union of India. Now here Delhi High Court said that because there is no time limit prescribed under Rule 117, and time limit prescribed is basically a procedural thing, is arbitrary, is unconstitutional and violative of Article 14, और लॉ में कोई प्रिस्क्रिप्शन नहीं है टाइम लिमिट का. तो उन्होंने कहा कि हम क्या करते हैं. पहली बात तो उन्होंने कहा कि 117 रूल में कोई टाइम नहीं है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, राइट फॉरफिट नहीं होता, आपका राइट फॉरफिट नहीं होता. लेकिन उन्होंने ये जो हाईलाइटेड लाइन है ये और कह दी. This, however, does not mean that the availing of setback credit can be in perpetuity. इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि आप कभी भी क्रेडिट क्लेम कर सकते, ट्रांजिशनल क्रेडिट. उन्होंने कहा कि जहां पर कोई टाइम लिमिट प्रिस्क्राइब नहीं है, हम लॉ ऑफ लिमिटेशन को लेंगे. And according to the law of limitation, 3 years time limit is there. So 1st July 2017, 3 years are expiring on 30th June 2020. So if you have not filed your Tran 1, and even the government has said, directed to the department that circulate this statement, popularize, advertise this statement so that everyone can take benefit of it. Though department is not doing it, after looking into all these legal development, judicial development, the department came out with the change in the law itself, and that too retrospectively. From 1st July 2017, they said in section 140, you say there was no time limit, you cannot have power to prescribe time limit. So they have written the word within such time as may be prescribed. So they have given the time limit, they have assumed, or they have provided the powers to provide for the time limit to file the Tran. Now what would happen tomorrow? Till now, what was the jurisprudence in this? What was the judicial development in this? I have already taken. Even though after this, any question with respect to this, you're most welcome during the question answer session. Now this is again the latest development. This is also very, very important. Again, 2-3 minutes I am taking into the background, because why am I taking into the background? I am assuming that everybody should be taken along, even though those listeners who have not kept a pace with the developments in the subject. So that is why I am revisiting the background of every development in order to take everybody along. Pardon me for being repetitive, whosoever already knew it. Now, this is again PMT 09. Now, section 77 of the Act was giving you a remedy to a problem. What was the problem? listen to me carefully about the problem. Problem was, you being into the early stage of law were paying taxes, but inadvertently you paid wrong type of tax. You wanted to pay C or and S, you paid I. You wanted to pay tax, you paid in interest. You wanted to pay interest, you paid cess. Now the problem is, once you have paid the tax or once you have paid the amount, that reflects in your electronic cash ledger under Rule 86 of the rules, CGST rules. Now what happened? I'm sorry, 87, my dear friends. 86 is the electronic credit ledger. So when you pay any amount, it gets reflected into your electronic cash ledger. Now the problem is, if you have paid wrongly the wrong tax, wrong type of tax, wrong type of amount, interest pay करना था, tax कर दिया, tax pay करना था, interest कर दिया, tax pay करना था, IGST CS कर दिया, और vice versa. Now you went to the department says refer to section 77, my dear friend. What is 77? 77 says that if you have wrongly paid the tax, then pay again and seek the refund of the wrong tax paid. Pay again of the same amount in the correct tax and seek the refund of the wrong tax paid, section 77. Now there is a very huge hardship, I would say, on the part of the taxpayer. You have paid wrong tax, now you are going for the refund, and we all know taking money back from the government, notwithstanding the present COVID situation wherein they have actually reimbursed around 9,000 crores to the pending GST refunds, that is exceptional. But otherwise, taking money back from, especially from the indirect tax department, is tooth and nail. It is very difficult. So there was a problem, and there was a problem on the part of refund issuing authority also, that unnecessarily the work burden is increased for the no reason. There should have been a remedy which is provided on the technological front only. Why the law is being provided when the technology is so robust and at least claimed to be robust? So no remedy was there. Then if I'm not wrong, let me read it. Because many dates were there. Just a second. I think I have taken the this thing. I don't know, but there is no date. Anyways, then the situation was being captured and taken cognizance by the department, by the GST Council, and they suggested, with effect from 1st August 2019, 1st August 2019, that the change in the rule was being brought. And what was the change? The change was that if you have wrongly paid the tax, we are giving you a form made available to you on your portal in your login. Go to your portal, log in into your system, and find this PMT09, which would facilitate you to transfer from wrong head to the correct head of amount available in your credit cash ledger. If something is there in the cash ledger, you can transfer it. You can transfer it. So now this was being, PMT09 was being made effective from 1st August 2019, but was not brought in, और उसका जो implementation का जो rule था वो भी apply नहीं किया गया. रूल में ले आए लेकिन उसको नोटिफाई नहीं किया, उसको लाइव नहीं किया, उसको लाइव नहीं दिया. उसमें लिख दिया कि जिस दिन हम नोटिफाई करेंगे उस दिन से ये रूल एप्लीकेबल होगा, और उसको एप्लीकेबल करना भूल गए. 21 अप्रैल 20 को PMT09 जो फॉर्म वो रूल में नोटिफाइड था जो कि अभी भी नोटिफाइड एक्चुअली गैजेट होना बाकी था, वो PMT 09 अब पोर्टल पर नजर आना शुरू हो, लेकिन स्टिल वो जो रूल था वो नोटिफाई नहीं हुआ। आप समझ रहे हैं इस बात को? हालांकि मैं कहूंगा ये भी कोविड-19 के लॉकडाउन के क्राइसिस को ही हैंडल करने की एक रिलीफ है कि अगर आपने कोई गलत टैक्स आपका ऑलरेडी पड़ा हुआ है जो कि आप रिफंड नहीं लेने जा पा रहे, या आपने अभी गलत टैक्स पे कर दिया और आप फाइनेंशियल क्रंच है आपके पास, तो PMT 09 जो कि 1 साल पहले ऑलमोस्ट दिया था, उसको उन्होंने ऑपरेशनल कर दिया पोर्टल पे, लेकिन उसका लॉ को इंप्लीमेंट तब भी नहीं किया, और उसको किया 28 अप्रैल को इंप्लीमेंट, इफेक्टिव फ्रॉम 21 अप्रैल 2020, क्योंकि PMT 09 जो पोर्टल पर जिसका मैं कहूंगा अवतार हुआ था वो 21 अप्रैल को हुआ था, तो 21 अप्रैल से उन्होंने 28 अप्रैल की नोटिफिकेशन से PMT 09 ला दिया। तो वो जो प्रॉब्लम था कि गलत टैक्स पे हो गया तो रिफंड लेने जाओ, आपका वर्किंग कैपिटल ब्लॉक होता है, आपको प्रोसीजरल इनकन्वीनियंस होती है, वो सब दूर हो गया। Now I think this is the last topic and we are almost on the time only. अब मैं आपके साथ एक इशू डिस्कस करना चाहता हूं, वो भी रीसेंट डेवलपमेंट में आता है और जिसके बारे में बहुत ह्यू एंड क्राई भी अभी हुआ प्रोफेशनल सर्कल्स में, ट्रेड इंडस्ट्री में, पूरी इकोनॉमी में। डायरेक्टर्स रेम्यूनरेशन के ऊपर जीएसटी का प्रभाव, द इफेक्ट ऑफ जीएसटी ऑन डायरेक्टर्स रेम्यूनरेशन। नाउ लेट मी टेक यू टू अगेन द लीगल बैटल or the judicial journey of this issue in service tax also. My dear friends, in service tax also, पहले तो मैं आपको बता दूं कि पहले मैं जरा आपको एक इंटरेस्टिंग बात बताना चाहता हूं। डायरेक्टर्स कौन हैं? अब हमारे पास 10 मिनट लगभग है, हम इसी टॉपिक पर 10 मिनट लगाएंगे और इसको we will try to sum up the entire thing in next 10-15 minutes, this topic, and we'll try to go in little long more detail of this topic because this is troubling everyone. डायरेक्टर रेम्यूनरेशन पर जीएसटी का क्या ट्रीटमेंट? अक्टूबर 2019 में एक एडवांस रूलिंग आई थी, that was of I think it is not mentioned here in my PPT. Anyways, so first of all, who are directors in a company? Who are directors in a company? Directors are those who are interested with the affairs of the organization, of the company, to conduct them in a smooth manner. In a smooth manner. Now there are two types of directors. One is executive directors, another is non-executive, independent directors also we call. Executive directors are those who are fully engaged on day-to-day routine basis with the operations and the management of the organization. Non-executive directors, although on the other hand, are involved on occasional basis, and their role as an independent director, according to the Companies Act 2013 also, to ensure that there is the I would say the order of proper management is maintained to protect the interest of the shareholders of the company. That is the primary role of independent directors on the board of the company. Now, non-executive directors are primarily given with the meeting fees, sitting fees, because they are not full-time involved into the day-to-day activities of the organization, unlike the executive directors. Why am I giving the background, my dear friends? Because all the jurisprudence has been settled on the basis of the arrangement, the type of activities, the nature of services, whether it is a contract of service or for service. Then all these, the agreement between the organization and the directors is the sole to determine the nature of the transaction, to finally determine the taxability of GST on those transactions. That is why I am going into background. And in case of executive directors, they are given with the salaries. The tax deduction at source under Income Tax Act 1961 is also being made under Section 192 of the Act. They are being informed as employees to the Securities and Exchange Board, stock exchanges, other regulatory organizations, control mechanisms. They are being treated as or declared as employees with the labor departments, PF, ESI also. PF is also being deducted and contributed on their salaries. So on and so forth. Similar type of situations, similar type of arrangements are there in case of directors. Unlike non-executive directors, those are come and go just to ensure that order is maintained. Order of management is maintained. They are participating in the critical, or I would say principal decisions of the organization, but not into the day-to-day activities like executive directors. This is the benchmark, my dear friends. There are 6 tests which are given by a long back Supreme Court judgment of 1959 also. I am not able to recall this citation. There are 6 tests. If the control and supervision, where is the control and supervision? Whether who is having the right to sack them, who pays them, what do they do? There are 6 tests to determine the employer and employee relationship according to the Apex Code. Now, if these tests are applied, executive directors are considered to be employer and employee. Non-executive directors are not considered to be employer and employee relationship. First advance ruling came in October 2019, which said that the director remuneration would attract GST under reverse charge, entry number 6 to notification 13 by 2017 central tax rate. And this Claycraft Private Limited Rajasthan Authority for advance ruling came on the basis of the judgments given in the previous advance ruling only. And both the advance rulings have given the same judgment that the director remuneration shall be attracted the reverse charge, GST. Let me clarify you, my dear friends. This judgment of 25th June 2018 of Aurangabad CSTAT, Central Excise Service Tax Appellate Tribunal, allied blenders and distillers, the same facts were there. What I mentioned you, Form 16 issue हो रहा है, टैक्स कट रहा है, ESI PF का compliance है, employee declare कर रहे हैं, Form 32 फाइल किया हुआ employees का, और ये सब बातें हैं. तो CSTAT ने कहा कि यहाँ पर टैक्स की लायबिलिटी, सर्विस टैक्स की लायबिलिटी नहीं आएगी दोस्तों. उन्होंने कहा कि इस केस में एम्प्लॉयर एम्प्लॉय रिलेशनशिप होगा और इस केस में टैक्स की लायबिलिटी नहीं आएगी. सिमिलर एक सर्कुलर 2005 में CBEC ने निकाला था, जुलाई 2005 में, जिसमें उन्होंने सेम बात कही थी डायरेक्टर रेमुनरेशन की, कि अगर एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर है तो उसको किसी भी नाम से आप कमीशन दें, आप उसको रेमुनरेशन दें, आप उसको सैलरी दें, अगर वो फुल टाइम आपके साथ है तो वो जीएसटी उस समय सर्विस टैक्स था, सर्विस टैक्स के दायरे में नहीं आएगा. तो मैं आपको क्लैरिफाई करना चाहता हूं दोस्तों, एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर अगर वो 6 टेस्ट पास कर लें सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट के अनुसार, एम्प्लॉयर एम्प्लॉय बन जाए, जीएसटी में रिवर्स चार्ज में नहीं आएगा. लेकिन अगर वो, ध्यान से सुनिएगा, यहां पर थोड़ा सा डिपार्ट कर रहा हूं फाइनल आंसर से, अगर वो अपनी कार किराए पर देते हैं कंपनी को, एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर, फॉरवर्ड चार्ज में टैक्सेबल है। वो अपनी कोई प्रॉपर्टी किराए पर देते हैं कंपनी को, फॉरवर्ड चार्ज में टैक्सेबल है। सो माय डियर फ्रेंड्स, वो फॉरवर्ड चार्ज में जो टैक्सेबिलिटी है वो डिपेंड करता है केस टू केस। लेकिन सैलरी मीटिंग फीस पर, क्योंकि नॉन एग्जीक्यूटिव है, जीएसटी रिवर्स चार्ज में एंट्री नंबर 6 में लगेगी। लेकिन सैलरी जो प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनीज के डायरेक्टर्स को दी जाती है, जो फुल टाइम मैं बिजनेस कर रहा हूं, आई एम डूइंग बिजनेस इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी, आई एम फुल टाइम इनटू डूइंग अ बिजनेस, आई एम अ फुल टाइम डायरेक्टर, फुल टाइम एम्प्लॉय इन द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, सैलरी इज गिवन टू मी, नो जीएसटी, नो जीएसटी। I am an independent director with Reliance Industries Limited or Jio. They pay me sitting fee for 5 lakh rupees per sitting fee. On that sitting fee, the Reliance Industries shall be liable to pay GST under reverse charge. I hope I am clear with this. And we are 2-3 minutes ahead of our target. I am so happy to see that. This is my contact details. Those who want to, in email ID लास्ट में com आएगा, com, m is missing thanks to my office staff, m is missing. My mobile number is correct. Those who wish to connect me for any query otherwise also, they are most welcome. Now I give back the podium to the organizers for further taking away.
Thank you so much, sir. You have updated us with respect to all the recent developments that have happened in GST, which we happened to miss out in between because of the lockdown. Thank you so much for that. We have 2 questions from the audience. I'll just read out the questions, sir. First question is from Dr. Aanchal Arora. She's asking, how much essential is the filing of return? Is it significant to file when you are not coming under the tax slab? She writes, बहुत बार सुना है कि खाली ही भर दो रिटर्न पर भर दो. Please put some light on this. It's always a dilemma. Dr. Aanchal Arora, Assistant Professor in Commerce, Khalsa College, Amritsar.
Ma'am, basically, if you are a registered supplier, registered taxpayer, and you are effecting supplies also, and then of course, if you are effecting supplies, collecting tax, then you have to file your return. But if you are not able to file your return because the date of filing return and date of payment of taxes are coinciding, means both are same. By the time when you have to file your return, you have to pay your taxes also. But because if you are unable to pay your taxes, you are cash crunched, then you may opt for filing nil return just to save on the fee, late fee, that is 200 rupees per day. Interest shall continue to be levied at the rate of 18%. Other than the COVID period, if we go into the general scenario, interest shall continue to be levied. Only thing, if you file your nil return, you will be saving on late fee, which I don't suggest. Unless you are very much sure that for next 1 month or 2 months, I am not able to arrange for funds and let it go like this only. Because department, my dear friends, department is actually keeping an eye through information technology tools, and the red flags are raised very soon when your returns are going with details, and for 2 continuous months you are filing nil return. Under section 29 also there is a provision, if you continue filing your nil return for 6 months, they can cancel your registration also. So I have given you the broader idea about रिटर्न फाइल करना जरूरी है, अच्छी बात है, लेकिन ऐसा ना करें कि क्या है कि रेड फ्लैग बचाने के लिए मैं निल रिटर्न फाइल कर रहा हूं, लेकिन निल रिटर्न कंटिन्यूअसली 2 महीने 3 महीने पहले डिटेल्स थी, अपने आप में रेजिंग ऑफ ए रेड फ्लैग. एंड आईटी ड्रिवन टूल्स में आई टेक दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी टू से दिस कि इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी में सिस्टम को बेवकूफ बनाना बहुत आसान होता है, लेकिन सिस्टम आपको बहुत आसानी से पकड़ भी लेता है। दोनों बातें हैं। If you know the tools, if you know the red flags, then you can make fool of the system. But if you don't, then system can catch hold you easily also. I hope I'm clear about my reply, ma'am.
Yes, sir. So the next question is by Mr. Satnam. He's asking, sir, can you explain the recent tussle between the center and the state over state compensation cess money, particularly when states are running out of revenue? What is the status as of now of that money? Is it permitted by our constitution to withhold these dues?
सतराम जी, आपने वो सवाल पूछा है जिसका जवाब अभी मोदी जी ढूंढ रहे हैं। एज पर कंपनसेशन सेस एक्ट आपकी इंटरनल क्लियरिंग फैसिलिटीज हैं जो कि सेंटर स्टेट के साथ शेयर करता है। आप न्यूज में देख रहे हैं कि बहुत सारे स्टेट्स का पैसा जो है स्टेट शेयर, जो क्योंकि ट्रांजैक्शन जब इंट्रा स्टेट होती है तो सेंटर और स्टेट जीएसटी दोनों लगते हैं। तो स्टेट जीएसटी कलेक्ट होता है सेंटर के पास और सेंटर जीएसटी में भी स्टेट का हिस्सा होता है, तो वो उसको देना होता है। कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनली दे कैन नॉट स्टॉप इट बिकॉज जो हमारा आर्टिकल जो हमारा जो 214 आर्टिकल है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन का, जिसमें जीएसटी ज्वाइंट पावर्स दी गई, कॉन्करेंट पावर्स दी गई स्टेट और सेंटर को, फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर लाया गया, उसमें उसको शेयर करना पड़ेगा। बट एट प्रेजेंट considering the present situation in the economy, there are financial crunch everywhere, so I don't know what kind of a solution will come tomorrow, but yes, states are valid in demanding their share of revenue in GST. All I can say at present, इतना ही मैं बोल सकता हूँ। जी मैम, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन। आवाज नहीं आ रही मैम आपकी। शिखा मैम, आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही। Where I can find the chats, I can also read myself. Yeah. Please write your questions. Okay. I think there is a question.
I guess there is some network issue at Shikha ma'am's level. Let me read the question for you. So there is Dr. Achha. She is asking how much essential is the filling of return. Is it significant to file when you are not coming under tax slab?
I have answered it. Are we talking about the?
Yes, sir.
Are we talking about the income tax return?
Yes, sir.
No, I cannot answer the income tax related questions. Only GST related questions.
She just asked for the GST only. I guess you have answered it. So there are only two questions for that. I guess just let me just wait for Shikha ma'am if she can reconnect with us. Shikha ma'am, are you able to connect?
You may ask any question with respect to GST. You may ask certain questions with respect to GST when input tax credit availability in your colleges, the ITC availability of the inward supplies received by your colleges, by your organizations. If a specific question is there.
Sir, I just got a message from Shikha ma'am. I guess there is some network issue at her level, and
गौरव जी आपकी आवाज भी नहीं आ रही मुझे, आपकी आवाज भी अब बंद हो गई है। गौरव जी आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही।
There were only 2 questions, so now there are no more further questions. So let me just conclude.
आपको आवाज आ रही है मेरी गौरव जी? Any further question?
Sir, I am receiving your voice, but am I audible now, sir?
Now you're audible.
Regarding the GST. So, sir, now am I audible?
Yes, now you're audible.
Yeah. We were just waiting for Shikha ma'am, but somehow she is unable to join. We were waiting for Shikha ma'am, but somehow she is unable to join us. So let me just conclude the session over here only. Sir, it was a very enriching session from you. Fill the and questions which government these facilities. And one more thing which I wanted to share to the participants, that tomorrow again we will come at 4 o'clock. The session will be taken by Professor Simrit Kaur. She is the principal of our college. So please join back us at 4 o'clock sharp tomorrow evening. Thank you very much, sir. And I also want to give my all IQAC party, Shikha ma'am, Suman ma'am, and Barda ma'am for her continuous support. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, the participants. Thank you, the organizers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.